James. Now he's heir to the name James Bond.
This old laptop, she'll hold together. Hear me, baby. Hold together.
Hey, baby, all together.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another cartoon commentary. Joining me today, it's Jason Swank from Rebel Force Radio. Really happy to be chatting with you again, good brother. How are you doing?
Hey, Michael, thanks for having me. I'm really excited for this. I've been wanting to do this for a long time, ever since you brought it up.
Well, one of the things that I like to have a lot of fun with is you're the Star Wars guy, you and Jimmy Mack over on my favorite Star Wars podcast. Been listening to it forever. But both of you are big Bond fans too, so I just think it's kind of funny to get you on here and talk about James Bond instead of Star Wars. So I'm a big fan of these weird, obscure cartoons that are based on movies. And some people might not know this, but James Bond had a cartoon. It was called James Bond Jr., and it's James's nephew. And that's what we're going to be watching today, the first episode called The Beginning. So track it down wherever you can. You might be able to find it on YouTube. If you do, we're going to sync up right as it's fading in from black. So a couple of the different copies might have some different stuff at the beginning, maybe a little blue text or something. But I've paused it just as it's coming in and the sound is coming in. And before we start here, Jason, what did you want to add about this forgotten classic?
I can tell you that I remember exactly where I was when this premiered. This was I believe it was in the fall of 1991. So I was 14. And so I'd been in middle school, and I had strep throat, and I had stayed home from school, and I was in bed, and I had an old TV, like third generation hand-me-down TV in my room, and I was watching the cartoon block of cartoons that was coming on in the fall. And I didn't even know, this was before the internet. I didn't know that there was going to be a James Bond cartoon. I was just watching. I knew it was that time of the year when new shows start to premiere. And all of a sudden, I'm watching a James Bond cartoon, and I just remember I felt so lousy, but for this 20 minutes, I felt so good. I just thought it was so cool because I was a brand new James Bond fan, because I was only just to the age where my mom would start renting the videos from me from the grocery store, the James Bond films. And so now to have a cartoon, this was like James Bond for me. And even as now it's easy to look back and say how cheesy and corny this was, and we'll have a few laughs, I'm sure, but this will always be a special place in my heart, because I was like, this is James Bond for me at the time when I was just a young thing.
So it ran for 65 episodes, just like back in the day, syndication, when they'd crank out 65 of these in a shot. So it's a deep rabbit hole if you want to get in it. And it came out in 91, so it's an early 90s show. Going to give you the countdown, so everyone who wants to watch long, get all queued up here. And here's your countdown. 3, 2, 1, play. In association with United Artists.
Murakami Wolf. Oh, here we go. Right away, we see the Aston Martin animated version of the Aston Martin DV5.
Do you think any of the Bonds researched the role by watching this? Like, Daniel Craig, instead of just watching Connery, do you think he popped in James Bond Jr.?
I just want to hear somebody when they're doing, who's your favorite Bond? Oh, it's Connery. Oh, it's Roger Moore. I want somebody to say, no, it's Corey Burton as James Bond Jr. That's he gets closest to the Fleming material.
So any mask fans out there, all your mask gadgets are ripped off from James Bond, because the Bond cars have always been famous for having little hidden weapons and defense mechanisms. And we're seeing that in the cartoon as well. Does James ever appear in this show, or is he just mentioned?
He does not appear. I do have a convention bootleg of the entire series, and I need to go through them all. I have a vague memory of there being like a Dr. Claw moment where you see like the back of a chair. and you're
Ah,
supposed to assume that it's Bond in one episode, but that could be just something I dreamt, or it could have been after, there was a Marvel comic book series for this, if you can believe it. So
yeah.
maybe it was something that I saw in there, how you conflate the memories.
And that could
But
be a rights thing too. You can
yes,
have his nephew, but you can't have him.
yes, right. And but this was fully produced and endorsed by Eon Productions, Cubby Broccoli's company. So this is as official as it as it could possibly get.
Mask. It's a mighty power that can save the day. We need Connery singing the mask theme.
Yeah, yeah, right. That would be great.
No one knows what lies behind the mask charade.
I gotta say though, this is a killer theme song.
Oh, it's
I
awesome.
love the James Bond Jr. theme song.
It's so, yeah, it is pure Bond.
Yeah, I mean, you got the guitar coming and strumming through, and so it's very like late '80s, early '90s. Of course, this is sort of like a aha, Living Daylights kind of vibe to it.
Yeah. So I've done a
Um,
few movie adaption cartoons on this
mhm.
channel. Some of them are nothing like the movie they're based on, like Rambo, who violently throws people to the ground and then runs away. And then we did RoboCop a while back. Eric and I did RoboCop, and that one was actually surprisingly true to the movie, despite lack of violence. The tone was bang on, and this so far really feels like Bond, even though you would think a Bond cartoon would be as ridiculous as a RoboCop cartoon.
Yeah, I mean, they do what they can, and the tropes of we think about like
The car
other
kills me.
yeah, but he's gonna land this park job perfectly. Look at that, amazing, incredible.
I wonder if there's a toy line for this
Oh, there was a great toy line for this.
with
A
vehicles.
great toy line. There was, yes, there was a vehicle, but they didn't release the Aston Martin DB5. He had
Ah,
a sports car, which he gets later. Um,
That was quite an entrance, Mr. Bond.
but I love that
Subcycle.
this core group all has a relationship to, the film canon. You got James Bond's nephew, and they're all very, stereotypical, of course, which we'll meet them later. But this guy, the head of the private school here, Bradford Milbanks. Of course, James will later kind of strike up a close friendship, quasi romance with his daughter. So you already got.
I suspect I deserved it.
Now this is Brian Stokes Mitchell doing the voice of the gym teacher. He's a great Broadway actor, TV actor. But his backstory is that he knew Bond. He'd worked with Bond in the field, so he's another connection to the real James Bond.
And this is your new home.
Did Ian Fleming ever see this?
I noticed you have quite a
I don't believe so.
No,
I
he
think,
died in '64. So
yeah. He wouldn't have.
died
I
well
don't know
before
how
us.
he would have felt. Who knows? You might have gotten a kick out of it. I don't know. But there is sort of um, there's enough like exposition in this series, like setting up the cases and stuff, where it does play like little mini James Bond adventures, where it's not just like one action sequence to the next, like a lot of cartoons of the time. But here it's like, oh, what a coincidence! He's a roommate to Q's grandson, so he's actually the grandson of and it's kind of based on the Desmond Llewellyn sort of look, and he's got a little bit of the mad scientist with the crazy hair, and
Yeah.
he's doing his crazy experiments.
So would this have been during Pierce's time as Bond?
Yes,
Early
it
90s?
would have
Okay.
been. Yep,
Because
this
he
would have
does sort of
been,
look a little like Brosnan.
Yep, he does. That I think they definitely sort of took a Pierce Brosnan page
And who's
with
your
this
favorite
one.
Bond of all of them?
Oh, I'm not going to say anything unoriginal here. I mean, it's Sean Connery.
Connery. Of course.
But very close second with Daniel Craig.
Yeah.
Daniel
think
Craig's the
because
one that I can relate to the most.
Craig reminds me the most of Connery, not just looks wise, but attitude. He's a good looking guy, but not like a modelly Pierce Brosnan or Timothy Dalton
Right.
looking kind of guy, more like
By the way,
Gru-
I just want to throw out the offense card. I'm offended that the only American in the show, is a total surfer, dude. Come on, are we all a bunch of surfers? So he's
thank
the son of Felix Leiter, the CIA
thank
pal
God
of
there wasn't a
James Bond.
Canadian.
Oh yeah, what would he have been? He'd have been wearing what an all denim tuxedo
Yeah.
or all
Voiced
denim suit.
voiced by Rick Moranis. So like there's a case we have to go crack, eh? There's like a guy with a golden gun, eh? He's got silver bullets.
You know, they get so close to doing the Chipmunks and the Chipettes with this series, where you've got Tracy as the love interest of Bond, and you've got sort of this nerdy girl who ends up sort of being a sort of a romance interest with Q, or little Q here, IQ. But they never get anyone for Gordo, man.
You deliberately tripped IQ.
Oh, this guy, Trevor Noseworthy. So he's the prototypical snobby foil. Um, Now, here's the thing that's real surprising about this show, and I remember being surprised even as a kid, is that they incorporated some of the real villains. Now, they take a lot of artistic license, but this is Jaws
Oh,
right
really?
here. Yeah, so this
I
is
was gonna ask
supposed to
if any
be
of the
the
real
Richard Kiel Jaws.
I was gonna ask if any of the real villains show up in there. There's one right there.
Quite a few. Now, this guy here that you never see, he's sort of like I mentioned Dr. Claw from
Dr.
Inspector
Claw.
Gadget. He's sort of this is Scumlord. You never really see what he is, but he's kind of the Blofeld type.
Yeah.
He fills that role, and instead of a cat, he's got a bulldog
Yeah.
that he's petting.
For a show
Give
that's
it a spin.
based on Bond, animated show for, supposedly for kids, it seems pretty grounded actually. Like we haven't seen anything just crazy and zany yet. At least not more zany than you see in a real Bond movie. Because there were some
Right, man.
Brosnan movies I remember watching going, man, we're really getting away from the Roger Moore and Connery stuff with some of the world domination and crazy gadgets. And, I kind of wondered, shouldn't this be an animated series rather than a live action series at this point? Like it actually
Oh
works
yeah,
a little better as an animated series.
they're kind of meeting in the middle,
Yeah.
I guess here a bit. But yeah, by the time you get to the end of the Brosnan era, it's a shame. And Brosnan, of course, realized that it was kind of jumping the shark at times, but
Mhm.
which is a shame because he was a great Bond. Look at those high tops that Bond is sporting, and you see those. They're like the old Reebok pumps, the
Yeah.
big tongue that comes up.
Oh yeah.
I'm digging the '90s, late '80s, '90s fashion. So this poor guy Trevor, he's just always trying to spy on. He knows that Bond and his friends are up to something, and he wants to get them in trouble, but never quite works out for him.
They might have included him to kind of be the turtle type of surrogate, party on, man, because it was all about the turtles in the early
Yeah,
90s.
that's right. Good point. Yeah. So it's
Pizza
just not some sort
time.
of anti-American thing.
So I also want to mention you're watching this on a big screen on a projector.
I
I believe
am.
that is probably the first time in history this show has been watched on a projector. So congratulations.
Thank you. It's
Call,
good to be a trailblazer. Good to be a
call,
first. I'd say
call
it holds up.
Guinness. Guinness book.
Will only be a minute, Tracy.
Okay, I'll wait here.
Oh, he's so
But
classy.
yeah, uh-oh, there's Jaws lurking. But yeah, they slow down enough to tell a story in this show, which I thought was kind of unique.
I don't understand. Why would
I find that it holds up, but if you're expecting, the kind of gritty animated stuff that we would get later into the '90s and into the 2000s, starting with Batman the Animated Series, this probably would be a disappointment to you, but it has a real charm. I just love the versatility when you think of Corey Burton being the voice of James Bond Jr. He sounds like he's
Yeah.
17, 18 years old. He was probably in his 30s at this point, and then Star Wars fans know him as Cad Bane.
Cad
And
Bane.
yeah, I mean, the versatility of that guy is just off the charts. We never got to interview Corey. We talked to a lot of the people from Clone Wars, and I just kept threatening Jimmy Mack that I was going to ask him James Bond Jr. questions the whole time if we ever got him on the show.
Probably would have been a 3-hour conversation because a lot of these guys, they talk about the big hit so often. It's just,
Right.
it's like automatic. But then you ask them about that obscure thing you did back in this year. Like, oh, I could talk about that for 4 hours because I've never talked about that.
Yes, that's exactly right. It's a great way. There's a little pro tip
Ah.
Michael's given. If you ever get to interview, a celebrity, do your research and find out something that, they don't get asked a lot. And that's a great way to break the ice.
Yeah, if you ever meet Michael Biehn, ask him about Time Bomb. Great icebreaker. Time Bomb was a straight-to-video movie he did, and he was pretty impressed that I knew about it.
That's cool. That's real cool.
We follow it until we get an opportunity to act.
So they all just met, here within the last couple of minutes, and they're already on this high stakes adventure being pursued. I always wondered whenever the pilot would swing back around on TV, we meet Bond. Oh, now this is cool. This is
cool.
the wristwatch.
And this is
buzzsaw,
91.
Yeah.
Like this is a lot of the technology from shows we grew up on. We've got it now, especially like smartphones, touch screens and stuff like that. Still waiting for that one though, that super watch.
Yeah, you never know when you could use a little mini buzzsaw out of your wristwatch. Come on, Apple, where are you?
The Apple saw.
But the show opens with Bond being pursued by the bad guys from Scum, and I'm like, he's just showing up to his first day at university, and he's already being pursued by the bad. Like, how long have these bad guys been after this kid?
So what's his sin? Is he's Bond's nephew, and they've got to get him?
They never really. I think that's a good old fashioned plot hole, Michael. They never really do say, other than I guess we can assume that he's always foiling their plots.
Well, you would think it's too bad that they couldn't incorporate Bond at least occasionally, but I get that it's a total rights thing. I mean, if you're told, hey, you can do a Bond animated show, but the one condition is you can't have Bond, do you still want to do it? There's a lot of people who go, let me take a crack at it. I can work around that. But you would think that he would be the MacGuffin. Like, if we can get Bond Jr., then James will have to do what we say. We've got a lot of leverage if we can capture one of his loved ones. Because I don't think they ever mention any of Bond's family in any of the movies ever.
They don't. There's some little Easter eggs thrown in here because in the movie on Her Majesty's Secret Service, the George Lazenby, the one and done George Lazenby, he has Bond get married.
The best Bond. It's like it's downhill from here, so I quit.
Yeah, it's a story in and of itself. But so this girl character here, Tracy Milbanks, so she is named after the one and only Mrs. James Bond, Tracy.
Okay.
So there's some little Easter eggs, but you're right. Even though this was officially produced and made by Eon Productions, they're also beholden to the Ian Fleming estate, and so there might be and the Ian Fleming, that estate is very active, and they still keep an eye out on how the Bond character is being treated by not just Eon but anybody, and it very well may be that their rights to the character didn't include something like this, so they had to work around it. But wasn't it kind of a thing like in these cartoons based on film and in live action properties, like going back to like Little Rascals, Laverne and Shirley, Happy Days. I mean, these were all animated shows, and in some cases they would always have to incorporate like some sort of like comedic pet or like child equivalents of the actual characters. So this isn't too off model from those when you think about it.
No, it's some cartoons just have a really kiddie, cheesy vibe, and you just can't stand it as an adult anymore. And some you watch it and you're pleasantly surprised, like that RoboCop episode that I watched with Clarence Boddicker, who is being Clarence Boddicker, if you can believe it, in a cartoon. Like, he is just
Really?
Yeah, he's just pure evil, just without the gore, and
Wow.
charming and fun. So like this is a cooler animated series, and I'd highly recommend it to especially people in the UK, because there aren't that many UK animated shows.
Hmm.
Quite like Wheels on the right side there. We have a lot of people either English or doing English accents, and there aren't that many great UK or English animated series. Like Action Force doesn't really count. They took GI Joe and they redubbed a few things here and there.
Yeah.
Uh, but in terms of something that feels genuinely English, I think people in the UK would really enjoy this one. Oh, the music is so good.
Yeah, and they keep running the theme song throughout, just like any good Bond film will do. They'll throw the 007 theme in at the right times.
When in doubt,
I don't know about this word, but I don't know what other word to use it. It's got swank. I guess that's appropriate with who I'm talking to right now. But it's just got this cool suaveness about it. It's got swank, like the movies do, right? That's what James Bond is,
Yeah,
and
that's what
that's
I've
what this show.
always appreciated about the character. I think it does. I mean, again, we've been treated to such brilliance in animation and almost a sometimes I wonder if I, some characters and like some of the superhero movies and things like that, sometimes I worry that they get almost a little too adult, and it takes
Yeah,
a sort of takes something away from kids that it's like, gosh, my kids had to be practically my daughter had to be practically a teenager before I felt comfortable watching all the Marvel movies with her, and we've been going through
oh yeah,
those. um but this is like, I could see my son watching this today, and kind of this is his entry into the character of James Bond. And I think that at the heart of it, that's what this series was probably really developed for, was just take this icon and make it fun for kids, so that they'll grow up and then maybe explore the movies. So it's a nice little
yeah,
gateway.
yeah. It feels very Sunbow. Sunbow,
It
Joe,
does.
Transformers, all those. They never, even though it was supposed to be a kids show selling toys for kids, they wanted to reach a little further than that. Um, I just looked up the definition of swank to be sure I was using it in the proper manner. Characterized by a showy display, fashionably elegant. I think that definitely describes the show as well as my co-host for today.
Oh, that's very kind. Yeah. So people will ask me, "Is that really your last name?" I go, "Yeah." Why would I pick that? I mean, I got called every derivation of it in high school: swanky, swanker, swankster.
You should have said, "Well,
Uh,
thank you, Miss
yeah,
Moneypenny."
yeah, that's right.
At all.
Yes.
Some, and we, were misinformed.
what? You mean all that was for nothing?
Yeah, I was just say the gym teacher sort of reveals, I knew everything that was going on. You guys were on this big adventure. I'm not going to tell anybody, but don't let it happen again. But of course he lets it happen. Now this is where
65,
you talk about the
64
car.
more times.
So Uncle James sent him, because the Aston Martin DB5 got destroyed. He sent him this beautiful car, convertible,
Nondescript.
and this is the one that was made. Yeah, oh, yeah. This was the one that was made into the toy.
Okay.
And these toys are actually fairly easy to come by. This is one of those lines that I've keep telling myself I'm gonna just go on a bender on eBay one of these days and just pick them all up, and for nostalgia's sake. They weren't perfect, but I remember feeling at the time they were pretty good.
Mm. I know there's a lot of Mask fans out there who will just accept any vehicle that'll not transform into a robot, but have um, attack stuff, missiles and stuff pop out of it. So that could be a fit right in with a Mask collection.
Yeah.
And that's the first episode, the pilot episode.
Boy,
of
without
James
commercials,
Bond
these
Jr.
really fly by, don't they?
Yeah, that's
Oh,
why I love
man.
doing these. That's why I love doing these 22 minutes in and out.
Yeah.
And that was not at all what I was expecting. I thought this was going to be more along the lines of, "What the heck are we watching?" You kind of like just did Captain N the Game Master with Jay. Bartlett, and that was kind of a wow. I remember this being so much better than what we're watching right now. But this I had never seen, and I was not expecting this at all to just be so cool. It's one word to
Yeah,
describe it is cool.
it is cool. I would say that the show kind of suffers from that it's basically the same plot recycled a lot.
Yeah,
Scum is trying to do something, and James and his cohorts have to sneak off campus to go, stop this, you know, uh, global supervillain, and all get back in their beds before, you know,
yeah,
attendance is taken or whatever. So, but they are fun. So I think if you're a Bond fan, certainly if you're a fan of sort of this vintage, this era of animation, it's worth checking out.
definitely. Yeah, track it down. Uh, Even if you've seen one, you've seen them all type of thing. At least check out one. I'm interested to see a couple more of these because it's more along the lines of the Bond that I want to see. I love the Connery Bond. I grew up on Roger Moore. I thought Pierce Brosnan was a tough series of Bond movies for me because I thought he was perfect, but the Bond movie he was in just kind of felt a little. What is he doing? Like this isn't the Bond that should be running around with heavy artillery and wearing camo and stuff. Like why isn't he wearing a tux more? And
Yeah,
where's the intrigue and the espionage?
right.
It's funny,
They
but
were
this
more
episode
action
gets
movies, than anything.
exactly.
And he wasn't an action hero, Brosnan, but they tried to make him that, it felt like.
Yeah. Yeah. So there you go. James Bond Jr. We did it. Not
We
droids,
finally
not
did it.
Ewoks, not Clone
No.
Wars. I had the Rebel Force radio guy on it and we watched James Bond Jr. That's awesome.
Well, that's so Michael Mercy,
So
it's
me.
always but before we started, I got to say I did show Michael my credibility,
Yeah.
which is I still have four, no, five of the original VHS videos. I have volumes 1, 2, 3, 5, and 8. So yeah, this was back when you couldn't buy box sets of TV shows. You would occasionally get these VHS releases, and there's like, I think, gosh, is there only one episode per tape?
One or
Good
two.
Lord, only one episode per tape, and
What?
these were probably suggested retail price of 19.99. I can't believe that. That's pretty
Yeah.
expensive.
That's
But
probably
then
why so
the
many of us have these memorized front and back because we had the VHS cassette and just kept like got to get your money's worth out of it, right?
oh
This was
yeah,
1995, so I got to watch it 50 times to make it worth it.
so true. But then you walk into a convention, and they've got those questionable bootleg collections that you can buy. And I have a rule: if it's available commercially, of course, I
Yeah.
will buy it. If it's not, then I'll buy a bootleg, because so I did buy the bootleg of the James Bond Jr. the complete series, and I can tell you it's probably not the best quality because all 65 episodes on one Blu-ray disc. So I can imagine that they're highly
Yeah.
highly compressed,
You
but
never
I
know
had to
what's
have
going
them.
on with the rights to all that stuff too. I'd been waiting forever for a Tick high definition release because the
Mm.
Tick they put out the DVD of season 1 and 2, and then they never did the third and final season of the Tick. And I was in the exact
Not
same
even on
boat. Like,
DVD.
nope, third season of
Mm.
Tick never got released on DVD, and years and years went by, and they never did it. And I was in the same boat. Like I would love to have an official set of the Tick. But they're just sitting on it, and they're not doing anything with it. So just new phrase I've been using, top grade fan made. If the rights holders aren't doing it and there's no legitimate way to get it, and it's just either sitting in a vault or doesn't even exist anymore. Maybe it's just decrepit and eroded and gone. Then it's really cool that some people are able to do things like the Hobbit cut, where they chop them down to a little more bearable way, or with the Star Wars movies, since I believe you're familiar with the Star Wars. There's the
Hmm.
fan original cuts,
Right.
the despecialized editions, because can't get them anywhere except for those, those DVDs way back when, which aren't even proper widescreen. But then that tick did come out, and you never know what happens with the rights too, because the great thing about the day and age we're living in right now is before it used to be, hey, it's not available in my area, which means you'll never have it. Now that you can order stuff from anywhere in the world, I found a Tick Blu-ray set. It looks official, and it's like a short run that only this one seller was able to secure the rights, and it's remastered, so it's actual high definition Tick, all 3 seasons on a Blu-ray, and I found it in this little nook in the internet somewhere. It looks totally legit and official. So you never know. Same thing with you remember Werewolf way back in the day in the 80s on Fox? There was a live action werewolf TV show.
I do. Yes.
Yeah. Dusting off the old memory banks there. Werewolf has never been able to be released anywhere because of all the rights issues with the music. Because they aren't able to go back and yank the real songs and put in the placeholder songs, and they don't have the masters, so that's why that's never been released. Well, some I don't remember if it's France or somewhere in Europe got the rights, was able to circumvent the music issues that have been holding it back all this time, and just this country was able to do a limited run of it. Wow. So it's out there for people who really love that show and want an actual official physical release of it that's kind of been cleaned up more than a lot of the bootlegs. So you just got to keep hunting, keep looking, and just because it's not on Amazon or your local Walmart shelf doesn't mean it isn't in Bulgaria or
And I think Blu-ray as a format is region free, I believe.
That's right.
The Blu-ray is a region-free format. Boy, the real head scratcher for me, though, speaking of that stuff, is Muppet Babies, the original Muppet Babies from the 80s.
Yeah, what a shame.
It's not available, and despite the fact that they incorporated a lot of like live action clips from other movies and TV shows and things, but I figure Disney now owns probably 95% of the IP that's ever appeared in a Muppet Babies show, so I don't know why with them that they haven't been able to put it out. But you're right, there's all kinds of technicalities and stuff, but maybe Kazakhstan will get a Blu-ray out or something.
Slovenia full series remastered Muppet Babies available for 3 days in May. But as soon as it's out there, it's official, it's cleaned up, and then and that's part of the hunt too. There's the thrill of the hunt with toy collecting, going to the local store, to conventions, looking for those old toys, but also with media. So hunting down official media of this stuff, even though you can stream a lot of this stuff in different places, it's just kind of cool to go hunting. I mean, those tapes of James Bond Jr. look awesome. Even if you don't even have a VCR, even if you don't have a VCR to play them on, it's just cool collector's item to have.
I have about 15 VHS tapes that I've tried to throw away, and I just can't. The nostalgia pulls me too much. They do. Another one is my very first copy of the 1989 Batman movie that is so beat up because you talk about movies over, rewind, play, rewind, play. I mean, that was like the whole fall and winter of 1989 for me. So I cannot get rid of that VHS.
That's a big reason why I have Transformers the movie memorized, because I picked up a copy of it from the local movie store and just, basically on repeat, because you couldn't just watch an episode whenever you wanted to. I'm like, why would I want to watch an episode? I've got the ultimate episode right here. So maybe that's also why I'm so forgiving of Hot Rod, because I've been able to really analyze his behavior in the movie and go, he's not that bad, guys. He actually does a lot more. He does a lot more good than bad.
I like you sit down, you're like, I've actually been thinking about this for 30 years, and
Prime had it coming.
And who's going to challenge you? You've been thinking about it for 35 years. I mean. Everyone else is like, I've not really given it that much thought, really.
I really don't care that much. Well, I don't either, to be honest. That is just killing time.
waiting for streaming to show up in life.
And that's what cartoon commentary is all about, killing time in a fun way. So we're going to wrap this one up. Jason, thanks so much for joining me on this one.
Oh, this was a hoot. Thanks, man. I really appreciate it.
Everyone check out Rebel Force Radio. I'm sure most of you out there have heard it, but if you've never heard it, it is an awesome Star Wars podcast. Jason and Jimmy Mack talking Star Wars, all the classic stuff we love, all the new stuff, and always taking a fair and usually, pretty upbeat and positive look at stuff, keeping things in perspective and reminding us the power of the Force, which is, the power of love, the power of good things, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Luke Skywalker, remembering where this stuff came from and why it continues to be special. Definitely feels like Favreau and the gang have tapped into that original source with Mandalorian, and it's cool that all that stuff is kind of seeping into all of the other new exciting shows that are coming out too.
Yeah, Book of Boba Fett, December 29th. That'll be exciting.
Looking forward to that too. All right, everyone out there, thanks for listening. Hope you enjoyed James Bond Jr.
James Bond Jr. chases scum.
Thanks again, everyone. May the Force be with you, and Nerdmas Day.